Hi, I'm Tom, and this is Adult Game Reviews. This is my first sponsored review of 2025, and that's Alive by Cskin Games.
I'm alive! Man, I'm alive!
You're waking the neighbors!
Alive was released to Steam in April of 2023. It's also a complete game. Cskin Games is releasing No Such Luck, their second game to Steam in March of this year. What better way for me to get ready for their second game by reviewing their first game? Now, likely why I don't get more sponsored reviews is that all the words here are my own. I'm totally honest in my sponsored reviews. So, it's always a risk to put your game out there.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
How was Alive? Let's find out. First, let's get into the premise. You play the MC who just lost his job. Since he's a workaholic, he has a good amount of money saved up. This allows him to enjoy his time off of work and emotionally try to rebound from a terrible breakup. This leads you to meeting some girls and having to make some difficult choices. Okay, let's move on to the audio. There's music and sound effects. I was pretty impressed by the music at different points. When there were sound effects, they enhanced the scenes. All in all, very solid. Now, onto visuals. For a game that started in development in 2021 and completed in 2023, I would say the visuals look pretty good. Now, I'm sure you could read between the lines here. Compared to all VNs, I think the visuals are fine.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good.
They aren't Summer Heat or Summer's Gone levels. While those games may be in development for the better part of my adult life.
How many years has it been, Milo? 30? 40?
Alive completed in 2 years, so taking all that info in, I'm pretty impressed by the visuals, but I would put them in the average range, all things considered. Okay, let's get into the story. This is a solo love interest story. You have 3 main girls with a couple you can unlock depending on your choices. Those 3 girls, Nikki, Mary, and Erin, have their own distinct path with the story overlapping at some points. My first playthrough was the crazy, damaged, and fun Erin. I'm not sure why I started with Erin, but for some reason my white knight screamed at me, so who am I to deny myself from riding in on a white horse?
I'm on a horse.
The second playthrough was Mary, the cute blonde barista who works at the local coffee shop. She also likes you so much that it feels like she might stalk you. She is pretty, even though her clothes look wonky at the very beginning. The basic setup is your best friend got into a relationship with Stacy, the rich and hot redhead you see here. While you're trying to get your life back on track, you hang out at the club your friend works at, and that introduces you to a few girls. After having a dry spell for a long time, now you're flush with options. The decisions in the game matter. However, they're fairly rigid. Your decisions will trigger certain reactions and actions. There weren't many neutral or nuanced decisions that I found. So no matter what, your decisions did play a part in which girl you ended up with. For my first playthrough, I basically kept all the girls on the hook, and eventually it chose Erin.
I fucked up.
So you need to be intentional with the girls you want to pursue. I felt the story was very straightforward and contained. Some people might call it simple, but with so many different paths, I would imagine it was pretty complicated to put together. There were moments that were funny and moments that I genuinely was turned off by a girl's behavior or drawn to it. Your reactions will depend on you, but there were certain plot points that I found emotional. But I did think a little more context with some of those emotional scenes could have really pushed it over the edge. The writing was great. I noticed the typo maybe once, but the writing was well done, which helped a lot throughout the story. When I notice the writing, it's usually not a great sign because it's been translated or there's awkward word usage. While I will get into my criticisms here in a second, I didn't have any issues with the writing at all. Now, let's move into my biggest criticism because the game is pretty straightforward and short for one playthrough. There were little scenes here and there that were talked about but not explored or shown. For instance, this could be considered a minor spoiler, so plug your ears if you care. There was a wedding proposal that happened at one point, but instead of showing the proposal, it's just talked about off screen. I was thinking to myself that would have been really nice to see. Or maybe a little bit more exploration on certain girls' backgrounds to give context. For instance, it would have been interesting to see the moment when Mary started to like you. Like, why was she so head over heels about you?
He's not that special.
It didn't have to be long or super involved, but it could have helped give a little context and help connect with the love interest a bit more. The second criticism is you have little mini games you can play to increase your stats, those stats being strength and stamina. These can be avoided, but I felt like the system was a little underutilized. Supposedly these stats are used for which ending you get. I do think more could have been done with the system to make my investment in my stats a little greater. The mini games were pretty easy, and I never failed a workout even though you supposedly can. Unlike real life. Am I right, guys?
Right? Am I right?
Fool this man!
Moving on to the spicy content. There's a good amount and it's pretty vanilla, but I don't really have any complaints. Now, I know there's an ongoing joke with different images popping up on the TVs throughout the VN. I didn't particularly like these. I felt like they took away from the scene. I mean, they felt a bit jarring, especially since no one acknowledges what's on the screen. But maybe that is because I just have no sense of humor that I'm aware of.
No, ma'am, we
AGR.
do not have a sense of humor we're aware of.
So let me break down my experience. When I first started Alive, I didn't really have a lot of expectations since I didn't really know much about it. I saw the visuals and they looked a bit dated, but I don't think the Steam page does the game justice. The visuals were better than my first impression. There are 2 types types of VNs really. The kind that are meant to have one very long playthrough or many shorter playthroughs. The rare VN has both. This one falls into the many playthroughs category. I'm likely going to pay 99 cents to get the walkthrough so I can unlock the different endings, because I loved Aaron's ending and Mary's was okay. I was curious how the other endings stack up. Unfortunately, the story can feel rushed at times, but all in all, I had fun with Alive. So this is a play for me. If you're looking for a complete VN, I would recommend checking it out. For all the endings, you're likely looking at 10 to 12 hours, I'm guessing here. I mean, many people tend to just fast forward through the parts that they've seen, so I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take. For a first game, though, this is giving me a lot of hope for No Such Luck, which I'm going to check out when it releases in March. You can head on over to Steam and wishlist the game. You can get the direct link to Alive and No Such Luck through my link tree down below. I want to thank the anonymous fan of Alive for sponsoring the video. I also want to thank all my backers on Patreon and Subscribestar. If you haven't seen my top 10 best nerdy girls, you can check that out right here. Thanks again. Until next time.